Alright guys, HyDra again. So I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big drama last night as we are back again with another gentleman's agreement situation and shenanigans because the Ordnance Gloves have been officially GA'd by the pro players, banned in professional play. These were the gloves that allowed players such as Skyz to throw nades all the way across the map way back at Major 2 in Miami. What is the next steps here going to be? Because there's been massive debate on whether these are actually broken, way too overpowered, or whether the pros once again are getting way too soft and they should simply find ways to counter and work around what was a possibility back in Miami. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, Drazah was banned yesterday, temporarily from the game. This seemed to be an issue with ranked. For some reason, certain accounts were just getting banned. I imagine this is probably getting resolved, but there was some interesting kind of backlash to this, as Kenny says. I knew it, right? This guy's dodgy. He's been cheating this whole time. And yeah, Dashy says the same thing, because of course they've been beefing pretty hard with some of these Warzone guys over the last couple of days, and Dashy's like, oh damn, they were reporting Drazah and therefore that's what he got banned. I don't really know whether that was anything to do with it or whether it was merely some sort of bug, because when a patch update drops, the game is usually broken. That was actually one thing that I meant to mention earlier today as well, but I didn't, was the patch changed quite a lot. The Rival, the MCW, the stuns, the frags, brought the new maps in and everything. But if you guys are aware, there's been a massive problem with Codcaster now for a very long period of time. The hardpoint time doesn't show up on the scoreboards, and then I think there's various other issues as well. That's not been fixed. So, you know, they can try their best to do some stuff for the competitive scene, and they can change the game in various ways, but for whatever reason it just simply seems like there is no change of Codcaster coming anytime soon, unfortunately. Did also want to mention though for you guys, a discussion here that was had on the relative difficulty of, you know, winning, let's say, in the CWL days versus the CDL days. Always very difficult to compare across different time horizons, because it's always easy to discredit players in former generations that maybe weren't playing against the best competition or whatever. But there's other reasons that big time was made clear in the past why that argument doesn't necessarily hold so much water. There is an argument though that back in the CWL days, there were way more matches to play. The teams weren't maybe as top heavy as they are today, arguably. So there's a few different ways to look at it. Back then, you couldn't win a tournament in just 3 to 4 series. You had to play all the way through groups, you then had to grind your way through a long bracket, and then potentially play a double best of 5 grand finals. Today, it's a different story, right? When we have online qualifiers, you go to the tournament, you don't play that many matches in order to win the entire thing. So was it harder back then? Was it harder today? It's an interesting question.
Hold on, guys. I have an actual question. What era was harder to win? This era or the CWL era? You guys would know this.
It's
this era.
This era, not even close.
It's this era.
This era is way harder to win.
Well, bro,
it's always going to be the current era.
Well, correct. It's always going to be, but it just, like Ben just said.
Yeah.
Some people were like still working jobs and going to school in certain eras. Like now, it's literally a full-time livelihood. Where like everybody is like all in with coaching staffs and analysts and VOD.
Yeah, but
performance coaches.
The only thing I don't like about this era is how you don't got to win a lot of series.
Everyone though.
But you are playing.
But Tom, that goes the other. That goes the other
series. Yeah, that's I was just about to say that. The only thing is back in the day you had to play a lot more series, but half of them were fucking ass.
Yeah, you got absolutely, bro. The tournament didn't start for good teams until like Saturday night.
Yeah, literally, you don't have like. I just remember back in the day, bro, when we won a tournament, it just felt like a grind, bro. It just felt like it was.
You played like 8, 9 series.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro, I would wake up every day and play GGEA Orange at 10 a.m.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying for certain anomalies. When I see
one eye
like
closed.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like a bottom team, Chris, win 2 series in their top 3, and they had like a good, like an easy road and shit, and they got blessed. It's like, all right, bro.
Wait,
like, what the? You know what I'm saying?
Also, that's a good point. Talent was more divided back then. I feel like
bottom team gets lucky every once in a while, but they don't.
Because
people made roster changes every. You guys seen these roster changes now?
Yeah, talent
and shit.
Talent back then was also divided. We're like
people
so many different teams had stars.
Bro, you think roster made with 6 teams is bad now? 5 teams. It used to be like
it used to be 10,
almost
10
the entire league.
Yeah, was there actual balance though, or was there like absolute top 3?
Yeah, there were times where there were times there were parity. Like there were parts of like Ghost where there was very heavy parity. Like IW had some good parity.
Ghost, we were playing Blitz.
Well, True.
Because as was mentioned, of course, back then, sure, you had to play more matches for the tournaments, but most of the teams, the top teams would play, were pretty terrible, right? I mean, there were some bad teams out there, players not playing full time or anything like this. So, you got relatively easy games in groups and stuff like this. You got to turn up to your groups knowing that you'd smoke the opposition, pretty much whoever they were going to be. But we can see there are some parallels here between teams or players, let's say, that were able to have an average placing of 3rd or less over multiple seasons. So from like OG players, Crimsix has 4 seasons with an average placing of 3 or less, Scump has 3, Big Timer has 3, but we also have 3 seasons from the newer generation, right? Simp, aBeZy and Cell, they're also up here as well, and if that continues, as it probably will do, then you might not expect that to change anytime soon. But let's talk about this whole Ordnance Gloves drama, right? Because this was rumoured the other day, now it is official, it seems, that these Ordnance Gloves, as you can see on the screen right here, basically throw equipment further, have now been banned by the pro players. Now, this was not banned officially by the league, just to make that clear. A gentleman's agreement is designed by the pros themselves to remove something from the game that they believe makes the gameplay experience or the watching experience, although I'm not really sure they care about that, somewhat worse. They're not officially banned by the league, so theoretically, somebody could accidentally put on Ordnance Gloves at the World Championship, have a nice little pre-nade in Game 7, Round 11, and say, well, it's not officially banned, my bad guys, just a mistake, type thing. Will we see that? I don't know. There's also an argument that maybe the New York Subliners could have saved their nade spots for the World Championship. Because if they saved those Ordnance Gloves ideas for the World Championship, they wouldn't be able to be banned in time in that scenario. So this really started from here, right? When they were using the Ordnance Gloves back at Major 2 in Miami, this is HyDra, this is Skyz, this is the rest of the team launching their nades cross-map at 126 because they knew that was the perfect timing to blow up the car and kill all of the OpTic guys to close out this round. So this was really where it started. Should this be allowed? Should this be feasible that players can literally spawn in, look up to the sky, and immediately launch their nades cross-map with these Ordnance Gloves, and therefore get free kills by exploding a car? 3-piece nade, crazy moment at the time, and this was seemingly the deciding factor in what's happening. But obviously we've got to say, this is far from the first time that, this has occurred. Even as Killer Sloth says, people need to get in the lab and put that extra time in. Love seeing stuff like this. This, for example, is World War II, when I saw this clip floating around here on Saint-Marie Dumont, where you can run out of spawn. This is at the start of the game. You had this thing that could throw the nade further, and bang, it's a little 4-piece all the way across the map here. So there was that. I was also thinking myself that way back in Advanced Warfare, and this has been the case in many games, if you guys remember Semscure, I don't know if this is a name that's familiar to many of you guys, but anyone that played game battles back in the day that learned nade spots, you'll probably know Semscure. This is one that I used to use all the time. Come off spawn, takes about 3 seconds to get to this spot, look up in the sky, throw this nade, and then bang, it lands here and kills the guy that's just coming up to jump spot with the sniper. And pre-spawn nades, or, off-spawn nades have been a thing for ever, pretty much in Call of Duty. Certainly nade spots have, and spawn nades have as well. So, the question is, should this have been done? Is this too powerful? Should it have been gentleman's agreemented by the pro players? Ton says boring, and I would be inclined to agree. My opinion is that this isn't necessarily too strong, although I would say that arguably there is a point to be made both ways. The fact that you can literally walk off spawn and throw it immediately all the way across the map to their other spawn in that specific spot is arguably a bit too much. But at the same time, there is a counter to this, i.e., don't go and run into the nades. If OpTic decided not to run off spawn that round, they would have survived those grenades, and therefore the rest of the round, Subliners would have to play without grenades, because they used all of them at the start in this particular scenario. And of course, also using the Ordnance Gloves means that you can't use other gloves that also give you advantages. Now, you can use trophies as well to stop this type of stuff, or the other option is, as Octane says, simply run another way. You don't have to go that way past the car if you don't want. You can go through P3. Sure, takes you a little bit longer, but it is a workaround. So this has been a big debate yesterday, and I definitely see it from both angles. My perspective is, I think it should probably be allowed. I don't think the pros should necessarily be shutting down this type of stuff, because it does add another element of strategy. You have to either avoid the pre-nades at the start of the round, or decide when you're going to use them, when you are not. And then there's going to be a balance between giving up map control and then potentially risking getting spawn naded, and then the team that was doing the spawn nades can then decide, well, okay, do we do it this round? Do we not? Do we save it? Do we then utilize the fact that we killed them doing it before? Now they're going to be safe and do something else, therefore we can take this element of map control because they're not going to be ready for it. Like, that's the depth of strategy that this allows for. Now, in a proper competitive game, is it really possible to throw spawn nades 2 seconds into the round and kill someone cross map? Probably not, let's be real. But I definitely think that there is an argument to be made both ways on this, because this is what Octane says. Now, you might say, Octane, was he the best search and destroy player? Like, should we be listening to the double donut and all this? But to be fair, I think I agree with him on this one. So as he says, Ghost S&D, best S&D game ever with Strong Arm. So Strong Arm, there was a perk you could throw nades further back in that game, throw smoke grenades further, this type of stuff, and also nades in general. Now, there wasn't as many like crazy spots maybe on that one for immediately off spawn, like there was on Karachi, but there were still cross-map nades that could kill someone within, 10 seconds of the round. Some methods in Octane kind of get into it too, and as Octane says, you need to learn how to play around it, and it adds a layer of knowledge into S&D. You couldn't just fly across mid on Warhawk every round either, because that's when the spawn nades would be landing. How do you plan to play against an exploding car in your spawn? You can't compare those maps to these, and you also don't have to sacrifice 3 perk points in this game to use it. Hitting mid on Warhawk doesn't equal leaving your spawn. Don't run into the cars, that's what he says. Like, there is a counter to that particular spawn nade. Now, maybe there are other spawn nades that are also very strong as well, but it would be interesting, right? Like, the lineups that New York used there, maybe you could use the lineup firstly to hit the car, then the next round where they're going to run through P3 instead, then you have a different spawn nade lineup to hit those guys as well. Like, I don't know, maybe that's too powerful, maybe it is, but the nades have also been nerfed now, slightly, so they're probably not quite as strong as they used to be either. Late cross on invasion, change timings to avoid the car. No cars on Rio or Terminal, everyone dies on high rise to nades anyway, because all those stupid barrels keep exploding. I just don't see how it makes the game more fun to watch or to play. I'd argue no one getting naded off literal spawn is more competitive than fighting down numbers because of it, and I just think my feeling is it adds another layer, The game, often in search and destroying COD nowadays, it's so stale, people use the same stuff, they basically do the same stuff every single round. Adding another element of play would, I think, make it more interesting to watch. Maybe to play, it's kind of broken and cheesy and whatever. There's an argument to be said on that. But to be fair, the reaction to the New York nades at the time was not, oh wow, this is so overpowered. It was, wow, they've done their homework, that's impressive. Other teams will have to also do their homework and find out ways to counter it. As, I think that's what Octane kind of believes that was the case at the time, and even Money B. And I do trust Money B's opinion when it comes down to search and destroy. Yup, then in due time it won't be for bloods anymore, it's going to be for pure info, because that's the point. When teams understand how to counter this stuff, then the nades get thrown and they don't get hit markers, therefore you get to know, based on that information, what they've done. Have they gone this way? Have they gone that way? Is it more likely they're going to A or B site, depending on whether the spawn nades hit or don't? And then you can use that information to decide what you're going to do for the rest of the round. So there's an argument that this actually makes a lot of sense. Slasher says, though, in Ghost, a bit of a different story because it was the stun grenades then rather than nades that were mostly used to get information, which I think was true. So maybe an explosive delay could come into play to help with this stuff, so you could use stuns for info rather than, using nades to get kills maybe. Drazah, though, says, nah, it needed to be G8, it was absolutely broken and takes no skill, which is like the standard default pro response when they've G8 something. I do wonder, though, to be fair, what the group chat was like, because I imagine that New York were probably in favour of keeping the Ordnance Gloves in, right? Let's be real, because they came up with this stuff in the first place, pretty much, and they might now think, damn, we should have saved it for champs, then it would have been G8. But, did the 11 other teams agree? Because personally, if I'm seeing that from Subliners at the Major, my thought process if I'm a player is, damn, okay, let's go. Let me get into custom games, let me start finding some of this stuff so I can use it, rather than, oh no, it's cheese, we've got to ban it type thing, which I think, generally speaking, is what the pros tend to do today. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Just wanted to mention this quickly. I saw this a few days ago now, but I forgot to talk about it, and it's just kind of wild, like America's crazy to me, and certainly Florida is. But anyway, if you guys want to watch this, it's obviously viewer discretion is advised, as the rotation say, but the body cam footage, if you guys remember day 1 or maybe even day 0, whatever it was, I think it was the Wednesday, wasn't it, in Miami, when there was that shooting at the Holiday Inn that the Minnesota Rocket guys were staying at. This is like body cam footage from that instant, which is now available here. So absolutely wild, but I'll leave a link down below if you guys are, have some degree of morbid curiosity. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Come on, what's up, Nate Shot? What's up?
Thank you, man. So the reason why I think my wife's mad at me, or might be a little displeased, disappointed, displeased, whatever, is I know for a fact when she walked up after she got back from the doctor's appointment, my food had arrived, and she saw it at the front door. And if she's in a good mood, she would bring it to me with like a full drink, a kiss on the forehead, a spank on the ass. But I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. That food's still out that front door, so I think I'm in the doghouse.
Oh, you might be in the doghouse if you missed your daughter's helmet appointment to smoke weed with your boys.
Well,
the doghouse is a horrible place
you
to be,
can't say
bro.
it like that, LaRue.
That's what happened, Nate Shot.
I'm gonna lose the kids.